Welcome to Voices for Impact, the podcast. Started during the COVID-19 pandemic and made in Syracuse, Voices for Impact is full of conversations with thought leaders from around the world that have made significant accomplishments in their lives and have gone through their own challenges, but have made it through those adversities and made positive impacts through their work. I'm your host, Danielle Mensing, and as a fundraiser for a nonprofit, I believe the most valuable tool you can give yourself is making a positive impact on others and your community. Every conversation is going to give you tools and tactics from entrepreneurs, athletes, artists, and change makers that will encourage you to develop a growth mindset and reimagine how you can find your purpose. Now let's get started. Hello and welcome to Voices for Impact. My name is Danielle Mensing, founder of Voices for Impact, and today I'm chatting with my friend, Coach Michael Sgro. Michael is a business owner, a certified professional coach, an advocate, a performance expert, and empathic leader. He coaches professionals to improve their overall effectiveness, leadership skills, career readiness, digital savvy, and so much more. His vision for himself is to help people achieve their potential through relationship building, developing emotional intelligence, and community building. He's a Syracuse native, works, and participates actively in the historic downtown Syracuse community with his multi-poo, Jonah. And he also serves as co-chair of the Downtown Syracuse Champions, the president of the board at Sustainability of Scholarships, and a member of the board of the Friends of the Rosamond Gifford Zoo. So first, could we start with, how did you become involved in becoming a professional business coach?
So, short version of the long story. When I was a kid, there was this great cartoon. Now, you're way too young to know this, but there was a great cartoon called the Get Along Gang. All right. And so this literally is how it all happened. So I loved this cartoon, and it was all about these different animals that got along, and they were like Scooby-Doo. They solved all these mysteries and did all these things together. And what was neat about it, and this is in the 80s, you could actually send away for this kit of your own get-along gang for your community. Okay. And so I got the kit, and I became like the leader of the get-along gang on the north side of Syracuse. So it's like 30 to 40 kids, Irish, Italian, and we would go to the park. I would do arts and crafts. I would teach people. We'd have school books, and I just become a teacher. And the moose on the cartoon was the leader. So I was the moose in my community. And so what I found throughout my career, in college, in my community involvement, I've always been the person who's been a helper. Mm-hmm. And so after 20 years in higher education, I worked on 5 college campuses. What I discerned about what I was doing really well and I really loved doing was helping other people. And I sort of found in my career in higher education that I was sort of doing the corporate climb of the better title, more money, this, that, and the other. And I finally peaked, and I found out that I was not doing all the things that really was enriched by, was really helping people. In my last gig, I was dealing with real estate tax. These are things I want to deal with. I want to help people.
That's not you.
Oh, that's boring, right? People who handle that, kudos to you. And if you find that exciting, that's awesome. So I made a pivot, and I said, I need to be in business for myself. I'm an excellent individual contributor. And what is it can I do? And immediately was going to be a helping profession. And so a friend of mine introduced me to a business coach, and we met on a Friday, and I was enrolled in his coaching certification program that Monday. And so I had already had a certification in project management. And this certification, I acquired also certification in a behavioral inventory. And so got all the chops to sort of do this as a career. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's not just about the technical aspects, it's really the people part. And so for me, I'm just completely enriched by what I do, how I do it every single day, and it just, I couldn't be happier. I could not be happier.
Ah, that's such a great place to be when you finally found what you're good at and what you love to do, and you're helping people and you're
And
happy.
you get paid for it.
Yeah, exactly. You're
Right?
right.
All those things have to be in place, right?
Could you talk to us a little bit about emotional intelligence, not only in the workplace, but in our everyday lives? Why is emotional intelligence is important, and what do you tell people about that?
So, from a performance standpoint, a leadership standpoint, from a work standpoint, life too, but let's focus on work. I think, is the secret sauce. Okay. And why it's a secret sauce is that it has everything to do with taking care of the human condition. And so, it's not the what you do every day that matters, it's how you do it.
Mhm.
And so if I have a project and a report due to a boss, and I'm presenting that report and I'm hot and bothered about what it is,
Mhm.
I'm going to miss the mark of my boss thinking I'm excellent, because the report itself is not going to solve that. If I'm a hot mess, that's what that person's probably thinking about. And so EI is our ability to take care of all that. A lot of people think it's just taking care of other people's feelings and being empathetic. That's
Mhm.
half of it. The
Mhm.
other half has to do with you and what we're contributing to conversation, how we set goals, how we do teamwork. If you're the person who's always out of joint, right, then that's not emotionally intelligent, right? So emotional intelligence helps us take care of the human condition so that we can perform in a way that's more effective. People can hear us, people can validate us,
Mhm.
and that's what people want, right? At the end of the day, they want to get a good job, or you did great, or people get along at work, or communicate effectively and not get into email wars and all these things. The
Right.
reason all that's happening is because we're not highly emotionally intelligent. And so research now shows, and I'm just thrilled that it's becoming more popular of an idea, right? This
Mhm.
emotional intelligence stuff, it's more mainstream. The research shows that people who have a higher emotional intelligence will outperform those with higher IQ. Okay, so when you think about like degree acquisition and people who are like PhDs in something, right? Oftentimes people make fun of some of the folks who have a lot of hard skills or academic knowledge and say things like, they don't have any common sense. Common sense, and the way we talk about that, is emotional intelligence.
Mhm.
And so I think everyone should invest in improvement of their emotional intelligence. It helps you in all the things. It's all the fields and handles all the things. Okay. And so the ability to take care of your human condition is the next like um, cat's meow and like human performance training, professional development. In my opinion, in the next number of years, we're going to see a lot more emphasis on this. We're going to see it as a requirement for essential workers, because you can't freak the F out when you're dealing with whatever it is that's essential to us, right? You got to be able
Mhm.
to manage your feelings and emotions. And there's an art to that. You can actually manage that. So yeah, that's what it is. I think it's the most important thing. Most important.
I have a follow-up question then. It sounds like emotional intelligence and empathy can be learned. Is that true? Or because there's some research on people with different personality disorders that they can't necessarily feel empathy for people. So can empathy and emotional intelligence be learned?
Yes, but here's the prerequisite: motivation.
Mm.
So I tell people all the time, I can't train motivation. And here's why. Motivation is an intrinsic value. So like you bring that to the table. I can be inspirational. Okay. So inspiration is extrinsic. We can cause it, we can share it, we can give it. But motivation is internal. So yes to your question, as long as you're motivated. So learning can happen on anything if you're motivated. If you're
Mhm.
not motivated, it's not even an option for you. And so there'll be resistance, right?
Mhm.
You know, people wrestle with this at work all the time. When people are forced into trainings, they're not motivated. They're actually going to learn this much, no matter
Mhm.
the topic, because their motivation is not there. And so motivation is something people bring to the table themselves. And I, as a coach, can't change that. You have it. or you don't, right? And so I don't like, even as part of my business, I don't like really go after people to coach them, right? They come to me because they're motivated.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell someone they should be motivated. So yes to your question, but their motivation has to be present in order for that learning to take place.
Now, what do you find is like the most common weakness or struggle with leaders today?
There's a lot of answers to that question, not because people are just failing in abundance. It's just that we're living in much more challenging times.
Mm-hmm.
And so what used to be okay for a leader is no longer okay. We're expecting more from our leaders. And so that's happening at every level, local, regional, national, world, right? We expect more from leaders. And so as a result, the two things I think that leaders in general can always improve upon or make better is emotional intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because likely if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't help more people. And so a prerequisite for leadership is emotional intelligence. In fact, one of the factors of emotional intelligence is relationship management skills.
Mm-hmm.
And think about extraordinary leaders. Those are people who can be inspirational to others, do great teamwork, right? That's how we know they're leaders, right? So EI is a direct impact on leadership proper, and being able to take care of yourself and your feelings is an important factor, not just taking care of other people and their feelings. The second thing I think leaders can help improve upon in general would be the art of delegation.
Mm-hmm.
Most people take on everything. And so, one, because they like the way they do it, but that's a surefire way that you're going to burn out. And so I think the art of delegation is very important. And so when we think about delegation, it doesn't mean just other employees. It could mean vendors, partnerships. There's lots of ways to find ways to delegate activity. All right. So it doesn't just mean give it to your assistant to do. It could mean you might have to hire a vendor to help with bookkeeping because you can't possibly do all of that yourself. And so you have to hire somebody to help with that. You can't do it all on your own. So being able to know what you should be able to delegate to perform at the highest level of leadership, you have to have those support networks and delegate to people you trust to perform the things that you would probably do yourself. So those two things, EI, taking care of your own feelings, and delegation. I find that those two things are the things I talk most about with senior leaders of organizations. It's usually those two things.
What is one or two important pieces of advice you can give to those listening? I know it's kind of a wide range of things, but if you could pick one or two things to leave with people, what would it be?
Number one and like number two is build relationships. Build relationships. Leave no relationship like undiscovered. From the barista to the custodian to the senior exec of another company. Every relationship matters. And once you break through awkwardness about talking to people just because, you will be magical. You will be magical. But relationships, it's my top 1, 2, and 3 activity. Relationships, relationship building. After that, I would say community development, right? If you're not involved in your community, then how does someone build trust with you, right? How do we know what you're all about, right? And so what I say all the time, and I didn't create the quote, I just keep repeating it, is what you believe is how you behave. What you believe is how you behave. And so let your behavior, whether it's community involvement, the way you treat your employees, let it speak to what you really believe, right? A lot of people recently put out a lot of statements about all the civil unrest and what's happening sort of in these spaces. Well, no one wants to read a statement right now. We want to know, what is your behavior? What are you doing? Because that's how we make decisions about people, right? And so I think organizationally we need to behave and show others actions. And I think that's the same for individuals, right? You want to behave what you believe. And if we see behavior that is off-putting, frustrating, exhausting, well, it tells me everything I need to know about you and what you believe, right? So if we can examine that for ourselves and align our values to our actions, right? Those could be also beliefs, and act in that way, then you're going to be doing yourself a good service.
Now, how do you keep in a positive mindset?
So I keep going back to emotional intelligence, but it's
Yeah.
that. So a piece of emotional intelligence is actually self-management skills, okay? And one of the skills within self-management is positive outlook.
Mm.
And that doesn't mean being positive, right? Like I'm like, hey, isn't this wonderful? Right? That's being positive. But positive outlook is your mindset. I believe tomorrow is going to be a better day. I think my relationship with my boss can improve. That's a positive outlook. And so I would say having a positive attitude starts with what your outlook is. Is it promising? Is it hopeful? And if it's not, how do you start addressing that so that you can have the right sort of self-talk, right? You know, whether that's that a boy, you know, good job today, right? Whatever it might mean, we can do that and give ourselves that. But I find that that's sometimes missing for a lot of even high achievers, right? We're sort of wanting the recognition from everyone else, but we don't necessarily give it to ourselves. And I
Oh,
think that's so important.
that speaks to me. How do you, though, I mean, during this whole time, it's been a tough year for everyone on many different layers and levels. What is one piece of advice that you could give for, you know, when you wake up in the morning, how do you change your mindset from doom and gloom, oh, I just got furloughed, or this year is not the best for me, to start thinking having that positive outlook?
It's developing that growth mindset. Okay. And so there are real activities within growth mindset. So, like, you have to do the work. So there is no, like, I wish there was a pill. I could just say, hey, take this pill, and tomorrow you're going to wake up feeling great. It's not that at all. We actually have emotional work to do every day in order to create that. And I think having a growth mindset is that emotional work. And it's taking something simple as a challenge and seeing it as an opportunity. But you have to literally say that to yourself. The pandemic is a challenge, but what's my opportunity? How can I pivot? How can I pivot my business? Whatever circumstances we have, right? And see it as an opportunity. That's having a growth mindset. If you're unwilling to say that to yourself, make the pivot, what I think is happening with people is that what they start to do is what's called arguing against reality. And arguing against reality is its own little demon, all right? And this is where we're fighting what's happening. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not a doctor. Are you a doctor? Can we really solve the pandemic? Like, I don't have a cure for the pandemic, right? So I can argue against that reality, or I could do something about my reality, right? Mindset, motivation, having that sort of growth mindset, law of abundance. There's something that people are talking about now called innovation mindset. And that's even like the next layer to growth mindset, where, okay, the pandemic was the perfect opportunity to pivot my business, right? What? That's like next level, right?
Wow.
To be able to believe that and say, I'm going to use the reality of the situation to do something good, positive, to take care of myself or benefit me, right? But you gotta, that is values-based, that's your set of beliefs, that's what you think you can do, and that all is wrapped around this growth mindset. So it's work. You have to like step into that. You have to like practice it. You gotta talk about it. You gotta give it voice. You gotta write it down. You know, tomorrow my goals are, you know, not to cry, or and to call a recruiter because I need a new job, right? Like, those are the steps. We will it into motion, right? And those are the people who are going to be hired immediately. Those are the people whose businesses will take off, because are you going to go to a business where people are doom and gloom? Or are you going to go to the business where the people are like, we've got this, right? Well, I'm going to invest with the we got this people, right? I'm not going to invest with the people who are like, welcome to blah, 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 you know, like, right? It's human behavior to be attracted to the folks who are giving you all the feels, all the right vibes, right?
Yeah.
And so becoming that is emotional work, but it's emotional work worth investing in.
What are some resources that have really helped you on your journey?
Good question. I'm going to go back to one of my previous answers. Relationships. I have such a vibrant network of people that I lean on, not just my core people, but I'm talking about the network. If I have a question about X, I know somebody who knows that. So
Mm-hmm.
like contact them, right? And figure it out. So I think that through relationships is probably my greatest resource. It's
Mm-hmm.
abundance. You know, when I think about like the amount of online contacts, I mean, literally people are a click or a tweet away from getting, information
Mm-hmm.
or explanation. And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like I have at my fingertips a resource and people who are invested in me, who care about me, who might even love me, right? Because we have that kind of relationship and would stop what they're doing and help. And so I don't really worry about the future because I've laid the tread for a road that is well paved and I know exactly what to expect from it. So literally aliens can land tomorrow because things happen in threes. So I'm thinking aliens are next.
We skipped the murder hornets.
That's right. That's right. So when the fourth horseman rides, like I'm ready for it because I have laid the foundation about what it is I can give to the world, how I'm going to get there, and who is part of that collective that's with me. I spend this much energy on people who don't invest in me or care about me or will do things to hurt me, right? I'm not going to fight that. You don't need to love me. I'm good. But I also don't think ill will of those people either. I keep everything sort of at zero with people. So this is sort of the Oprah principle, what she believes. And I'll say it a little bit differently than she says it, but the way I say it is, I'll love you as much as you love me.
Mm.
But I'm also not going to hate you if you hate me. So I keep everyone at zero. And if you want to go to 15, I'll be your 15. You want to go to 100, I'll be your 100. But I'm not going to go below that. And what happens, this is interesting. What happens is the people who might have a negative towards you or troll you or whatever the thing might be, okay, they eventually get back to zero themselves because you're not giving it any energy. So it takes a lot of effort to hate somebody. They
Mm-hmm.
give up when they realize they get no reaction out of you. So that's sort of like my best kept secret of like how I keep this all moving because I just stay in love. I go as far as people want to go with me.
Yeah.
And then that's my playground every single day. And I don't really worry about the haters or people who block me or any of that stuff. I'm just got no interest. I'm good. But if you want to friend me, then we're all in. We're good. We're going to be great. But I don't think about the rest. I just don't give it energy. I don't have it to give. I'm giving it all away in love.
I love that. I'm just kind of letting that sink in real quick because I think so many people, it's really hard to, especially if you're a sensitive soul, to not have those negative feelings or the haters get in to your psyche. But you're saying just keep it at zero. Give that. I love that. I think that's really like life changing for a lot of people that maybe are going through that right now. Wow.
I think nationally, I have a call for loving more. Like literally, that's my call to order. I believe in peacemaking above fighting. And so even if someone is trying to fight with me, whether it's a client, someone on training, somebody in the community, I won't get in the arena of a fight. And this is very Brene Brown. I won't get in the arena of that. But if you want to engage me for purposeful, life-changing soul work, then great. But I can't be vulnerable with someone who's unwilling to be vulnerable with me, right? Like that's not, no, danger, Will Robinson, run the other way, right? But I don't need to make that person feel bad about it. That's the missing step nationally.
Mm-hmm.
We hurt someone who hurts us. I won't hurt back. I'll just, I'll try to offer some help or support. But if I'm not your teacher, then I'm good. Like, I don't need to be your teacher. Like, so we practice that vulnerability with people we trust. And so everybody should have at least one good Judy, right? that you can practice that math with, get feedback from, say, hey, before I do this thing, what do you think about how I'm going about to do this, to
Mm-hmm.
get that information? We really don't need that kind of information from everybody. We don't. But having a sounding board helps us take those steps and make more accurate steps forward. But we don't have to have this sort of vulnerability with everybody. We don't. And I think there's a romanticism about this vulnerability, that we should be all in this commune of vulnerability with everybody. No, you need trust before you get there. And so without trust, a lot of good souls
Mm-hmm.
will start with vulnerability before they even have a relationship with somebody. Well, you can't share your deep, dark secret with a stranger,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't know if that stranger is going to hurt you.
Right.
Right. And so without trust, we can't achieve that space, and we should only have that space with a few people. It should not be everyone. That's not the goal. We can keep things in the middle, right? We can have a great collegiality, but we don't have to be soul sisters or ride or die
Right.
folks, right? But I think there's a notion about all that that's the end goal for everybody. Well, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work that way. It doesn't. We don't have capacity for that.
And it's okay if you just have your one Gail King.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's right. In fact, if it's Gail King, then you're winning.
I
Right?
know, right? My last question is, how do you define success?
So this doesn't sound morbid, all right? But I define it based on, if today was my last day, did I do all the things that I said I was going to do? And did I do it in a way of love? And so I define success based on that. And so, like, literally, as I lay my head to sleep every night, I say to myself, what was great about today? And what can I improve tomorrow? Right? If given that chance again to do something else. I'm turning 45. And so, sort of the life thing is in more of a question mark, right? We don't know how many days we all have, right? Even with pandemic and all
Mm-hmm.
the rest. So I take that seriously, the answer to that. And I think I evaluated each day based on what I did today, And then if I get a chance tomorrow to make something even better, then I've got a little bit of chutzpah to do that. But I think success is how you would define it. It's not measured by other people's standards, even our bosses, right? No, that's not. We have to define it. And so if it was a good day and you gave your all and you only made this much progress, it's not about this much progress. It's that you gave it your all. Mm-hmm. So that's my model for success.
This was such a great conversation, Coach Sgro. So thank you so much for the many tips and advice that you've given in this short period of time. There's so much more that I think we could talk about, and this could be like an hour or 2 hour conversation quickly, for sure. If anybody would like to reach out to Coach Sgro, they can always connect with him. I'll have his IG handle below to continue the conversation if you'd like to. Thank you so much for coming on Voices for Impact.
Thanks for having me. I'm so honored. Thank you so much.
And thank you for viewing. Voices for Impact is on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So please follow and like us to stay connected, and see you next time on Voices for Impact. Bye, everyone.